Sagittarius, there was someone who once made you cry quietly in the middle of the night. Someone who hurt you and then disappeared as if they had never stepped into your life, never owed you an apology, never gave you a look of regret. No explanation, no turning back. They left, leaving behind a Sagittarius with a fractured heart and 1,000 unanswered questions. But you know something. The universe never forgets the truth. You don't have to curse them. You don't have to pray for revenge, because there are some things the universe will speak for itself. If lately you've felt something shifting inside, if you've noticed that you think of them less, if a door in your consciousness is quietly closing and you don't know why, then maybe it's because karma is being quietly cleansed. The one who caused you pain is slowly fading from the energetic space of your life. Not because you forgot them, but because your soul has entered a new phase. And so, don't walk away just yet. What you're about to hear is not only about the person who once hurt you, it's also about you and the light that is returning after the storm. Some pain never cries out loud, some wounds never bleed, and some souls become so tired they forget how to ask for help. Sagittarius, I'm talking about you. You, the one always seen as strong. You, the one who keeps smiling and says, I'm fine. Even when inside, your whole world is quietly falling apart. But you're not weak. You've just grown too used to holding yourself up. You've learned how to survive by staying silent. And because you do it so well, no one notices that sometimes all you truly need is a hug. A soft whisper that says, you don't have to try anymore. I see you. You've done enough. Your soul, the soul of a Sagittarius, is a seeker's soul. You weren't born to stand still. You were born to move, to explore, to pierce through illusions and touch the essence of life itself. And because of that, you've gone too far, too deep, into places your soul was never meant to wander. You've touched energies that were cold, heavy, entangled, belonging to those you once trusted. You loved with your whole heart, pure without calculation. But in return, what you received were shards and a heart that felt like it could never mend again. I don't blame you, because the way you love is what makes you most beautiful. Because the light you carry, even those who hurt you couldn't deny. I see you, because you are Sagittarius and you never love halfway. When you give your heart to someone, it's not just love, it's an unspoken promise. You are home. You once imagined a future with that person. You forgave them, not once but many times. Not because you were foolish, but because deep in your heart, you always hoped maybe this time it will be different. You carried burdens that were never yours. You held too many faces in your heart. People who once hurt you, yet strangely, you worried about them more than yourself. You were the one who sat by the phone for hours, listening to others pour out their pain, while all you really longed for was someone to gently ask, "And how about you?" You once cooked a warm meal for someone who no longer loved you, just because you believed that kindness might save something that had already broken. You swallowed your sorrow to say, "It's okay, take care of them first." You kept peace for others, while your own soul was drifting in a storm. You forgave, even when no one ever said they were sorry. You thought that was how to keep love alive. But in the end, the one who chose to leave still left. And you remained with an emptiness no one else could see. Even strength has its limits. Even the soul cannot carry everything forever. And today, it has spoken. Can you feel it? Something is shifting within you, quietly but deeply. An old energy is moving out of your field. You no longer think of them as much, no longer crave answers, no longer revisit the same old memories. Not because you've forgotten, but because you are beginning to heal. Real healing doesn't scream. It begins in silence. One day you'll look at yourself and softly say, "I deserve to live in peace." And then you stop making excuses for those who hurt you. You stop trying to understand why they did what they did. You stop needing them to understand you. Because now you understand something else. You don't need recognition to know you are a beautiful soul. Astrology doesn't lie. Sagittarius is the sign of truth, of light, of souls who long for freedom on every level of consciousness. You are protected by Jupiter, the planet of blessings, but also the planet of growth through challenge. Jupiter doesn't take you quickly. It takes you deeply. It doesn't lead you to the destination. It leads you back to the core of who you are, so you can see the light you truly carry. Sagittarius is not afraid of getting lost, because it is often on the most lost roads that you find the truth. If you were once a flickering torch in the middle of a storm, then today your light is rising into a blazing sun that nothing can extinguish. This is not revenge, this is your rising. Every wound you've ever endured was a chapter, not to break you, but to teach you how to love yourself, how to set boundaries, how to say no, and how to walk away when it's time. You no longer need to save those who don't want to be saved. No longer need to light the path for those who choose to live in shadow. Because now you understand, the light in me is meant to guide, not to burn me down. You see it now, don't you? You are walking a path that not everyone survives. You stood up, not just for yourself, but for the souls who are still learning how to heal through your example. You are living proof of something miraculous. A heart that's been shattered can still love again. A soul that's been betrayed can still shine as if it were never torn apart. And if you're still here, still quietly listening, then know this, it is not by accident. Your soul has called out, and the universe is answering through this message. Place your hand on your heart and gently whisper, I don't need to carry it anymore. I am allowed to rest. I have done enough. I am worthy. This is not just an affirmation. This is a soul declaration, a message from the light telling you that you have come home. And if you feel you've arrived at that place, leave a comment below. My soul has spoken. I am listening. Because who knows, someone still caught in the storm might find the light because of you. Don't be afraid if others don't understand. This message isn't for everyone. It's only for those who are ready. Some people don't cry, they don't speak, they don't scream, they just choose silence. She stayed silent for her children, for her dignity, for a small, fragile hope. Maybe he will change, but he didn't. And one day she walked away. No tears, no blame. 5 years later, the man who once thought he could never be brought down had lost everything. And she, the one once seen as weak, now runs a center for women who survived abuse. She told me, I never wanted revenge. I just wanted to take my life back. I remember another letter, a girl who never blamed anyone. She just asked me one thing. Was I wrong to leave without saying a word? She'd been betrayed by her closest friend. That friend spread lies behind her back, then started dating her ex just weeks after the breakup. But the girl didn't react. She didn't get angry. She didn't call anyone out. She simply gathered the remains and walked away. 5 years later, the friend who used to be the center of every party now lives in isolation. And the girl who was betrayed now runs a small yoga studio where every class is a prayer for those carrying wounds too deep to name. I once sat beside an old man in a healing circle. His eyes were red. He said, I used to think my mother was a burden. I was too busy, too successful. I didn't call. I didn't ask. I couldn't even say, what did you eat today, Mom? 10 years later, his son slammed the door, leaving behind one cold sentence. You're too weak, Dad. And the old man said, I realized I was living exactly the way I had treated my mother, and I can't shake the feeling. That's when he understood. Karma doesn't come early, it only comes right on time. And for Sagittarius, karma never loses its way. You don't have to wait for someone to pay. You don't have to wish they hurt the way they once hurt you, because justice does not come from your hands, it comes from the hands of the universe. In astrology, Sagittarius represents soul justice. Not the kind of justice made by courts, but the kind that moves through vibration. A quiet justice, but certain. What you give, you receive. What you sow, you will harvest. The price they must pay is not always physical pain. Sometimes it is quiet loss. The loneliness in the middle of a crowd, the erosion of trust they can never rebuild. The realization that no one will ever love them the way you once did. And sometimes that is the highest form of punishment. Because you weren't perfect, but you were real. You were the one who loved, who waited, who endured, and still held on to hope. But once a Sagittarius walks away, your light can never be found again. I know, sometimes your heart still wavers. You don't want anyone to suffer. You don't want to hold on to resentment. You just want to understand why. The truth is, they weren't ready. They weren't mature enough to receive a love that came from a soul as noble as yours. The universe will teach them, not with words, but through experiences that mirror back the very pain they once caused. You don't need to stand by and watch. You don't need to wait to see whether karma has arrived. You are the evidence. You stood up. You kept going. You chose healing without turning your heart to stone. And that is stronger than any revenge. If you've ever lived through something like this, leave a comment below. I'm not waiting for karma. I'm living in the reward of my healing. The universe doesn't need you to retaliate. It only needs you to keep moving forward, because everything that once tried to pull you down will eventually fall behind you. Do you need to forgive? No, not if forgiveness adds to your pain. Not if it's just a hollow moral obligation. Not if it asks you to betray your own truth. You're not a saint. You are a soul learning how to love yourself again after being pushed to the edge. And sometimes the most loving act you can offer yourself is having the courage to say, I can't open my heart to that person again, and I do not regret it. Astrology calls Sagittarius the sign of truth, but truth does not come from the words of others. It comes from the honest emotions within your own heart. If your heart still clenches when you think of them, if their name still brings a lump to your throat, then maybe forgiveness isn't for you right now. And that is perfectly okay. You don't need to forgive just to be seen as noble. You only need to be honest with how you truly feel. If these words reach your heart, leave a comment below. I am being honest with myself. And if you feel even a little lighter, click like, so this light can find its way to those still searching for one peaceful breath in the dark. You don't need to be perfect. You only need to be true. And most importantly, make sure the light inside you is never dimmed again. Forgiveness is not the only door to freedom. Sometimes the real key is choosing to protect the sacredness of your soul. There are endings that come without goodbyes. No anger, no tears, no explanations. They just disappear. Softly like smoke, quietly like wind passing through a room once soaked in memory. And then they're gone, as if they never existed. You once longed for one last conversation, one moment of awakening from them. You imagined a day when they'd return and say they were sorry. Say they realized they had lost the most precious thing in their life, but that day never came. And you ask yourself, is this how it all ends? Just silence? Forever? The truth is, this isn't forgetting. This is divine intervention. You didn't have to close the door. The universe did it for you, softly and with mercy. That person is no longer in your energetic field, not because you hate them, but because they no longer match the light you now carry. In astrology, Sagittarius rules the 9th house, the house of soul evolution, where lessons do not come from books, but from wounds, from separation, from doors that close. Not to break you, but to guide you toward a vaster sky, a place where your soul needs more space and more light to breathe. You don't have to take them with you. They cannot pass through this gate with you, not if they still choose to live in the dark. This is not cruelty. This is the law of light. Just like climbing a mountain, at a certain altitude, you have to let go of the heavy things, or you won't be able to breathe. And then one day, you no longer mention their name in dreams. You no longer check their profile. You no longer try to decode their silence, not because you hate them, but because you no longer connect with them. And the miracle is, for the first time in your life, you feel no guilt for that. You didn't win anything. You didn't take revenge on anyone. You simply stood in your own light and felt peace. Nothing left to prove, nothing left to chase. Astrology says when Sagittarius walks through the darkness, they don't just carry back the lesson, they return with a philosophy. And one of the deepest truths I've learned, which you're learning too, is this: not everyone who leaves is a loss. Some absences are the greatest liberation a soul could ask for. You no longer need their apology. You no longer need them to return. Because now, you understand. Not every door that closes needs to be opened again. Some doors were meant to close, to protect you from what no longer belongs in your life. I once feared losing people. I once believed that if they left, I would no longer be myself. But then I realized, it was only when they were gone that I finally saw who I really was. The universe is merciful. It does not take away what you truly need. But when something begins to block your light, it quietly removes it. No force, no drama, no need for you to understand. Things just fall away from your life, and then silently fall away from your heart. If it feels like someone has disappeared from your life with no reason, no explanation, then this is the message you need to hear today. Don't go looking for the door that is closed, because you no longer live in that house. You are heading to a new land where only light is allowed in. If you need a gentle affirmation, close your eyes and softly whisper, "I no longer carry what does not belong to me. I don't need to close the door, because the light will do it for me." If this speaks to your heart, leave a comment. I am being set free, and I don't need a reason. And if this message brought you even a single peaceful breath, smile. Sometimes a quiet smile of peace can open the way for another soul who is still lost in a room of the past, afraid to step into the light. You haven't forgotten them. You are not heartless. You've simply outgrown the pain. You chose yourself, and that is the highest form of healing. After their disappearance, what arrived wasn't emptiness, but a sacred beginning. A version of you no longer carrying the old sorrow. You lost them. You survived the long, silent nights. You once asked yourself, "Will I ever get through this?" And then one morning, you opened your eyes, and the weight of the pain was no longer there. You still remember, but it no longer pulls you backward. You are no longer the Sagittarius you once were. You don't need forgiveness to be free. You only need to be honest with your own heart. And today, you've done just that. Astrology calls this a new cycle of the soul. For Sagittarius, this is the moment you dust off the weight of time and look forward. Not with fear, but with the vastness of life unfolding before you. You've come far enough that there's no need to look back. You've heard enough that there's no need to wait for an apology. You don't need to lift a sword, because your silence has become the sharpest sword of all. You don't need recognition. You don't need someone to say your name in regret. You only need one thing: inner peace. The peace you once thought had to come from someone else, you've now found within yourself. If you are in that place, the place where you begin rewriting your life from the inside out, then please know this: you don't need to fix anything. You don't need to become the person you were before the hurt, because you are the one who walked through fire and still carried the light. Take 1 minute, place your hand on your heart, and whisper, "I survived, and now I begin to truly live." Not for anyone else, not to prove anything, but for one reason only: you are worthy. If these words are for you, leave a comment. I am ready to be reborn as myself. And if you feel even a bit lighter, let this message continue to heal the souls walking alone on the path you once knew so well. Because someone's disappearance was never the end. It was the quiet space where your soul finally got to be heard. Welcome back. Not the you from before, but the you you've always wanted to become. If you're still here, still listening to this moment, I know your soul is ready for something greater. You no longer need to know why they left. You no longer need justice in every detail. Because what you've just found is worth far more. You've come home to yourself. Maybe they'll never apologize, maybe they'll never come back. But you came back to the purest part of you. You survived the nights no one knew about, the silent tears in the dark that no one came to wipe away. And the miracle is, you are still gentle. You stood up with shaking hands. You learned how to love yourself when no one else stayed, and you learned to believe in something higher than the pain. Now, as you look back, you see something strange and beautiful. You are transforming. A new version of you, one even you are still learning how to love. You rose, not for revenge, but for courage. Not from anger, but for release. Not to blame, but because the light within you is too radiant to be caged any longer. You are here, not by accident. It is no coincidence that you've listened this far. Many have walked away because they weren't ready to face it. But you chose to stay. In the deepest place of the soul, where no words are needed, you chose the light. And today, the light is choosing you. If your heart feels seen, held, healed, don't keep this to yourself. Leave a comment. I have come home to myself, so that someone out there still lost can know they're not alone. Click like as a signal to the universe that says I have come far enough, and now it's time I live as the person I was born to be. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, share it. A simple touch might open the path for a soul still searching for the light. Thank you for being brave enough to feel. Thank you for not abandoning yourself one more time. I'll meet you again, not where you lost yourself, but in the next chapter, where you carry nothing old, only you and the pure light you're now walking toward. Walk in the light. And never return to the version of you that once believed you were not enough. You have always been enough. You have always been worthy of love. And if you are ready for what comes next, stay with us, because the next video will reveal a truth no one has dared to speak. The universe still has so much it wants you to know.